How did the United States of America become the world's sole superpower? In the previous video, we saw how America expanded rapidly, from the Louisiana Purchase in 1803 to the aftermath of the Spanish-American War in 1898, transforming itself into a vast and powerful nation. During this period, right after the Civil War, America saw a rapid acceleration of its Industrial Revolution, which was set to boost the American economy. Railroads stretched across the continent, and steel and oil industries exploded. The Industrial Revolution was fueled by a massive and diverse labor force. Between 1865 and 1918, over 27 million immigrants arrived, providing the manpower that powered America's rise. By the late 1800s, the U.S. had surpassed Britain as the world's leading producer of steel and manufactured goods. And by 1903, the United States had overtaken Britain to become the world's largest economy. It was also in 1903 that the United States took control of the Panama Canal Zone. But it wasn't just industry. Technology and culture were also being revolutionized. Thomas Edison invented the electric light and the phonograph. Alexander Graham Bell introduced the telephone. Immigration transformed the U.S. into a cultural melting pot, and this period also saw the birth of Hollywood. American films began to dominate foreign markets. By this point, the United States was already a global power, but the journey to becoming a superpower was still ongoing. Then came World War I in 1914. At first, America stayed neutral, but in 1917, it joined the war on the side of the Allies. American troops shifted the balance, and President Woodrow Wilson's 14 points showcased U.S. leadership on the world stage. But when Congress refused to join the League of Nations, America turned inward again, back to isolationism. The 1920s became the Roaring Twenties, an age of economic boom and cultural explosion. Jazz, cinema, and radio made American culture global. But the Great Depression of the 1930s changed everything. President Franklin D. Roosevelt responded with the New Deal, reshaping the American economy and government. Then, in 1939, World War II began, and this war would forge America's superpower status. Again, America initially stayed neutral. However, the U.S. began supplying war materiel to the allies of World War II in March 1941, and after Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor in December 1941, America entered the war fully. Its full industrial power was thrown into war production. At the war's peak, American factories became the arsenal of democracy, producing vast quantities of weapons, vehicles, ships, and aircraft. The United States developed the first nuclear weapons and used them against Japan in August 1945, ending the war and demonstrating unmatched technological and military dominance. Another advantage for America was that no major battles were fought on American soil, with the exception of Pearl Harbor. The United States was the only major nation that benefited rather than suffered from the war. While the war devastated Europe and Japan, the U.S. economy grew even larger than before. In 1944, at the Bretton Woods Conference, 44 nations agreed to create the IMF and the World Bank, centered around the U.S. dollar. The dollar was pegged to gold, and other currencies were pegged to the dollar, making it the world's reserve currency. In 1945, the United Nations was established, giving the United States a central role in shaping global governance. And in 1948, the Marshall Plan was launched to rebuild the Western European economies. For this purpose, the United States provided more than $13 billion over 4 years. It wasn't pure charity. It reopened European markets for U.S. goods, secured allies against communism, and strengthened U.S. influence abroad. The results were extraordinary. By 1951, every participating nation had surpassed its pre-war economy, firmly aligning Western Europe with the United States. Then, in 1949, NATO was formed with the principle that an attack against one is an attack against all. This created a permanent American military presence in Europe, officially making the U.S. the leader of the Western Alliance. By now, the U.S. dominated the world's economy, military, culture, and technology. It had finally become a superpower, but it wasn't alone. Facing it across the world was a rival superpower, the Soviet Union. Thus began the Cold War, a 4-decade struggle between two superpowers for supremacy. The US and the USSR competed in proxy wars, nuclear arms races, and space exploration. And ironically, this competition only strengthened America's position. Military spending soared, technology advanced, and science thrived. In the 1950s and 60s, America led the world in innovation, and in 1969, it put a man on the moon, beating the Soviets in the space race. The groundwork for computers and the internet was laid. Silicon Valley's rise and Wall Street's financial dominance made the US the center of the global economy. Culturally, American music, Hollywood films, and television shows spread across the globe, projecting US soft power everywhere. Even jazz musicians like Louis Armstrong were sent abroad to represent American culture and creativity. Finally, in 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed, leaving the United States as the world's sole superpower. But wait, today, China is challenging America's status as the sole superpower, and in several areas, it has already surpassed the US, which will be explored in the next video. And if you want to learn the entire history of the US in just 5 minutes, click on the video appearing on your screen now.